Hi, this is Tim of the 1916 Company. Welcome and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me. I am still tmosso@thewatchbox.com. It is still in the description below. It is still your purchase and pricing email question line for buying this or any watch you see on any of our platforms. Please reach out to me directly. I am tmosso@thewatchbox.com. Today we are discussing a 2022 limited edition of 50 pieces in steel. Some people mistake this for being a Dubail limited edition, but this IWC Portugieser Perpetual calendar is actually for a French retailer that is spelled Dubail, D-U-B-A-I-L. That is where this watch was originally born, or at least it was born for sale through their retail network in France. And it is a beautiful timepiece. So this reference 503310 Portugieser Perpetual calendar is 44.2 millimeters in diameter, 15 millimeters thick, and from lug tip to lug tip, 52.3 millimeters with a 22 millimeter spacing between the lugs. Being a Portugieser, it is large, and that has been the case since the original 1939 reference 325. More on that in a moment. But first, the fit. It's designed to be oversized, so if it looks a little bit large on me, that's the idea. That said, it's secure, and if you look down the barrel, I could just about pull this off. To be perfectly honest, I would wear this and enjoy it. So if your wrist is flat across the top, if your wrist isn't really round, then you can wear this on a wrist of my size, 16 centimeters circumference and up. The strap is super high quality, of course, made by Italian leather specialist Santoni. It has their signature signal orange on the bottom. And then on the top, we have high gloss black rectangular scale alligator leather. And then we've got a monotone stitch and a shear cut side showing the layers of leather used. The side has been shear cut and then painted black, ultra high quality. We have an IWC folding clasp that is snap shut and friction fit. You can see a combination of polish, satination, and media blast, Probus Scafusia. You will also see it on the crown, the motto of the company, a good solid watch made in Schaffhausen. Media blast and polishing inside. Again, it snaps shut, and as folding clasps will do, it creates a loop so that when you take the watch off, it's harder to drop it. That's the whole point of a folding clasp. The case, very familiar to Portugieser fans, as since the very beginning, we had a sort of form follows function ethic about how to design the case. Lugs blend into case band. They're not stepped out, they're not obtrusive, they're not extroverted or hungry for attention. And you might notice that there are a lot of superficial similarities between two very different watches to come out of the 1930s. The 1932 Patek Philippe 96, retroactively the first Calatrava, and the 1939 Portugieser reference 325. And while they're very different in size, there are a lot of similarities, including the presence of Arabic numerals on the dial, small seconds, leaf-style hands, and that form follows function integration of lug and case. So why was the original Portugieser so big? Well, Rodrigues and Teixeira, the importers of IWC in Portugal, wanted a wristwatch that was accurate as a pocket watch. And at the time, the only way to do that was to literally build a wristwatch case big enough to accommodate a pocket watch movement. And thus we had the first purpose-built, i.e. not converted from a pocket watch, oversized wristwatch. And it has endured, although right up until the early 90s, only a few hundred of them were ever made because the idea of an oversized dress watch was considered to be bizarre, even vulgar, until the modern era. The Portugieser was just too far ahead of its time. Now, it seems like everyone loves the look, and I don't dispute that. It's handsome, it's minimal. The lug tops are polished, the case band satinated. You can see that the bezel is set in somewhat from the case band with a vertical lip, then a concave profile, then a short flat profile adjacent to a dramatically boxed and cambered sapphire that's designed to look like a 1930s or 1940s plexiglass. On the dial, we have this lovely nickel anthracite coating with a sunburst motif in metallic graining. We have applique indices for the hours as well as applique Arabic numerals. You can see that we have a wonderful cruciform symmetry as you can split it two different ways and find either way you wind up with a mirror of the opposite side. There's a railroad track in white, also a feature from the earliest days for reading the minutes. And then you can see we have a couple of coaxial indicators. There's small seconds as well as the perpetual calendar day over at 9 o'clock. Over at 3 o'clock, we've got the power reserve indicator, which is for 7 days. And then we have the date. We have the month down at 6 o'clock, and then we have the moon phase up at 12. And note that each of these sub-registers is not just countersunk at a different plane of focus, but also has a concentric pattern inboard with the calendar indications in red for easy distinguishing. Now, this is a brilliant system. This is IWC's Kurt Klaus Perpetual Calendar, which debuted in 1985, was originally designed with nothing but pencil and paper by a very old school IWC watchmaker named Kurt Klaus. And so the way this works is it's just like setting a Datejust Rolex. Basically, there's a quick set and everything's mechanically programmed. Now note, when I want to, I can pull the crown out, I can stop the seconds hand if I want to synchronize to a reference time. I do have hacking, but I've also got a quick set system. So all I have to do is put the crown in its intermediate position and start turning it counterclockwise. Notice how everything, including the moon phase, jumps forward as I advance. And the watch, provided it's not hugely delayed, all you have to do is click a few days and your watch is right up to speed. No looking up what combination of date, month, and moon phase it currently is. Simple as setting the date on a Rolex. And then you've got this very comprehensive display of year, decade, century, and millennium. The year and the decade are automated, though if you really need to swap centuries, not only can your IWC watchmaker reset this internally and put a 21 or a 22 in the frame, there's actually a slide that comes with the watch that gives you several subsequent centuries just so you're ready, in case. Beautiful watch with a combination of blue, red, silver, and anthracite on the dial. Lovely attention to detail in this little stepped aperture for the year. Note how it's not a clumsy shear cut through the dial. It steps down once. A beautiful look. On the reverse side, at over 38 millimeters in diameter, we have a movement that is by itself larger than an entire Rolex Datejust. Now you can see this was individually numbered out of the 50 made for Dubail, not Dubai. Unusual on an IWC is they generally will say something like 1 of 50. The individual numbering means each one is unique. We also have the company logo on the rotor, which means this is a full custom rose gold rotor. It is bidirectional winding and it uses the IWC Albert Peloton pawl-based winding system. We talked about Kurt Klaus. We may as well talk about Albert Peloton, who invented the pawl-based system in the late 40s. IWC industrialized it in the 50s and put it into production. It is the progenitor of every pawl-based winding system, including the late 50s magic lever. So you have 2 ceramic pawls and then a pawl wheel. The system is outstanding in its shock resistance. It's quite durable. It's also a bidirectional winding system. It's also famed for its efficiency of winding. The real drawback, and there's only really one, was that it would create dirt on the movement in its previous iterations. Here, because we have ceramic on ceramic, there's no problem there. Now, this is a 52610, which means it is part of the 52000 series. So instead of the long time use of a single mainspring barrel to achieve 7 days of power reserve, now we have 2 in series. And that solves the longest running problem with this movement, which was born as the 5000 in the year 2000. And that problem was always that it would gallop and gain time when fully wound. And in its last few days of power reserve, it would start losing fistfuls of time. With 2 phased mainsprings, we get a very flat torque plateau from the beginning to the end. So that's the advantage of the twin mainspring adaptation that first appeared on the 52000s in 2015. We also get the skeletonized bridge, so we can see the barrels with their snailing and satination, and then we also get a higher beat rate on the 52000 series. The movement started at 2.5 hertz, then it stepped up to 3, now it's 4 hertz, 28,800 vibrations per hour. The balance is still free sprung for durability and precision of adjustment, adjusted in a chronometer style 5 positions, and it still has an overcoil hairspring, so in pretty much any position, the watch will keep consistent time. That's the advantage of an overcoil. There is a protective sticker on the case back. You can also see the name of the retailer on the case back, but once the sticker is removed, a lot of the finishing features and details will be more evident. It's a little bit cloudy. We have blued screws. We have a lovely solarization on the barrels. We have circular stripes across the bridges, satination on most steel components. We have also polished screws. You can see there's some engine-turned perlage and mostly machine-executed but handsome beveling. And then all this is water-resistant down to 30 meters. Reach out to Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com for purchase and pricing details of this stainless steel 50-piece limited edition.